Eh bien, je vais inviter Madame Jane Connors. Madame Jane Connors, avant de rejoindre les Nations Unies, a été professeure de droit à l'université en Australie et au Royaume-Uni. En 1996, elle a été nommée responsable de la section des droits de la femme dans la division de la promotion de la femme du département des affaires économiques et sociales aux Nations Unies. Jane Connors est actuellement directeur de la recherche et du droit à la division de développement de l'Office du Haut-Commissaire aux droits de l'homme aux Nations Unies. Madame Jane Connors.
Thank you very much. How exciting. I usually don't associate this room with a lot of excitement, enthusiasm and energy. I've sat on that podium in this room and looked around and in general terms it is a quiet place. I'm really honoured and delighted to be with you here today at your closing of the NGO Forum on the European Regional Review of the Beijing Platform for Action. And you know the Beijing Platform for Action is extraordinarily important. It just astonishes me that it was 20 years ago. I consider myself as a relatively young person, but obviously I'm not, because I was a middle-aged person when I attended the Beijing conference. And indeed, many of you were there with me. You're much younger than me. You were much younger when you went to that conference. And it's a long time since I attended the the World Conference in Nairobi. So it's remarkable to be back again and see you all. We're all aware of what the Beijing Platform for Action, Declaration and Platform for Action did. It reaffirmed what earlier international conferences on women had recognized, and that was that women and girls' human rights are an inalienable, integral, and indivisible part of all human rights and fundamental freedoms. We've seen many conferences post-Beijing, and we've seen other policy conclusions, and in particular we've seen the Millennium Development Goals. These policy documents have resulted in a convergence of thinking and strong recognition of the inextricable link between women's rights and development. Simply put, to be successful, women must be placed at the heart of global sustainable efforts. And we're extremely pleased in our office to see the outcome of the Open Working Group's work with the standalone goal. I've been told, and I absolutely believe it because I've been in this room for about an hour, and I wish I'd been with you throughout your last 2.5 days, that your conversations have been dynamic, lively, and inspiring and inspirational. And they've covered a broad range of subjects within the framework of the Platform for Action. Given the current economic situation and demographic trends within this region, the special focus on women and economy was particularly important. The range of participants who generously dedicated their time and energies to this event is extraordinarily encouraging. 600 civil society representatives from all 56 countries in the region have come together to enrich and diversify discussions. This is so impressive. It really testifies to the high level of interest in the rights of women and girls, as well as our shared commitment to advancing this important cause. You all know that the Platform for Action identified 12 critical areas of concern and set strategic objectives and outlined recommendations in those. And you've highlighted progress at the policy level in some countries and numerous examples of improved regional and national policies, legislation and programs, perhaps amongst the most significant being the European Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, also known as the Istanbul Convention. However, There remains a continued gap, even in this region where there shouldn't be, and there shouldn't be anywhere, between policy and implementation, between the words on the paper and what goes down written in the sand. The persistence of discriminatory attitudes and gender stereotypes I think are particularly poisonous and very difficult to confront and very difficult to dismantle. And these gender stereotypes include unrecognised care work, mostly carried out by women. They've been highlighted by you. You've also highlighted, and you've shown that they indeed have slowed the pace of change, and in some cases rolled back what the gains that have been made. In particular here, austerity measures have been pointed at as doing just that. You've also stressed throughout your meeting the need to focus on accountability and implementation of the platform. Many of you have noted that the promises made those 20 years ago have not been honoured in a holistic and interconnected manner. It's been sporadic, it's been fragmented. You've highlighted key achievements and setbacks over the last 2 decades, and you've made proposals, in particular, to strengthen the post-2015 development agenda. In your outcome document, you call for concrete action to fulfill the promise of Beijing and stress the importance of accountability and resourcing frameworks and the need to ensure that CEDAW remains the framework for monitoring government promises and government commitments and indeed government legal obligations and ensuring their accountability in that area. I'm very confident that the outcome document will be well received by governments in the region. They will receive it and hopefully they will discuss it. Certainly it will be very important as we go forward in the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, designing our programs and our approach with regard to women's rights and gender equality. Now for us, and I look at this room, I see that the last 3 days in particular to this moment testify to the energy and the importance of civil society actors in pushing international policy. And there I see particularly the importance of the women's rights movement. And I'm very proud. I'm not one of those people who says I'm not a feminist. I'm extremely proud to call myself a feminist and also a member and a long-term member of the women's rights movement. We in the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights see cooperation with civil society as being extraordinarily important. And we've adopted a framework on the position of civil society actors which synthesises a range of protection interventions and provides guidance for our work overall. Furthermore, in our thematic priorities for 2014 to 2017, we focus on widening democratic space. In the field, and we have almost 60 field presences and other officers in peace missions and in political missions, we work with civil society actors, and in particular women civil society actors, to encourage women to become involved in decisions that affect their daily lives, and in particular in the context of peace building and conflict resolution. Through our presence on the ground, we also provide practical support to civil society actors, including operational support in the form of human rights training and national capacity building activities. Our representatives also advise on strategies for integrating gender issues into humanitarian response and in crisis situations. We also have fellowship programs and other programs where we build the capacity of women belonging to national, ethnic, religious and linguistic minorities. And I'm very proud to note that the office has welcomed fellows from many of the countries that are represented here today. While we see the great importance of civil society, including the importance of women civil society actors and young girls and adolescent girl civil society actors, we are very aware that many of these organisations, and indeed some of yours, and individual human rights activists pursue that work at their own peril. Many experience harassment and intimidation, and others are faced with reprisals for engaging in legitimate human rights work or for cooperating with the United Nations in the field of human rights. And we had a tragic event this year of one such human rights activist who was imprisoned and sadly died. Her imprisonment being as a result of her seeking to cooperate with one of the human rights mechanisms. And too often we've seen that beyond that, women are sexually abused, arrested, harassed, or indeed sometimes killed because of that work. In light of this, we at the office have decided that for the 20th anniversary of the Beijing Platform for Action, we are launching a campaign on women's human rights defenders. We want to use this campaign to honour all of those who have worked so tirelessly to defend the rights of women, and we hope that you will all join in efforts to acknowledge their valuable contribution. It will consist of a social media campaign, and you will be all very welcome to involve yourself in that campaign. Over the last 2 decades, the Council of Europe governments and governments across the European Union have made significant gains in the advancement of women's human rights and gender equality. But we have enormous challenges. You've shown that you continue to face discrimination in economic life. You continue, in fact, to have de jure discrimination in decision-making, and there are significant wage gaps. Female migrants, Indigenous women and women with disabilities, of course, continue to lack access to services and across the region. And we see girls and young women facing many psychological pressures, such as body image and sexualization in the media. And violence against women. I've written on violence against women. I think the very first, I wrote, in fact, the very first book for the United Nations on violence against women in the family in the 1980s, and who would have thought I would still be talking about violence against women in 2014. But it continues to be unacceptably high across many countries in this region. The picture presented on this issue is very troubling, with a 2013 survey from the Fundamental Rights Agency of the EU revealing extensive abuse that affects the lives of many women, but which remains systematically underreported and indeed, in some cases, regarded as acceptable. What we need to do is to really keep the pressure up to turn our hopes and aspirations into reality. The global community must continue to find ways to engage civil society in recognition of its immeasurable contribution towards the promotion of the rights of women and girls everywhere. Now, as we leave here today, I can't think of anything better to say than what you've said for the last 2.5 days. Act, advance, achieve women's rights. Thank you so much.